Well, good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you. I want to thank you all for coming out, and I want to thank you all for the work that you do each and every day in your communities. I don't have to tell you that we are swimming upstream with our values and what we believe in here in New York State, and I can assure you that the tide is heavy here in Albany as Republicans and conservatives in the New York State Legislature. It's not an easy task, but we are blessed to have your support and the work that you do each and every day, because it helps keep us informed, and sometimes it helps challenge us, right? And that struggle, it helps us push really what needs to be said. And I think there was great evidence with that in the previous session, what was being discussed, and I'm sure earlier today you got to experience that as well. In terms of the trend in Albany, I don't have to tell you that it's very bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to be dishonest. And that, I think one of the biggest issues here that we are facing in the state of New York is population loss. And there's a host of reasons of why that is happening, right? But we continue to see an outward migration of people to southern states and to border states too, to Massachusetts, New Jersey, places that aren't that far. But rest assuredly, those people do not want to be here in New York State. So as a legislator and in our body, I am striving to find ways to keep people here, to make New York State a place people want to stay, want to raise their families, want to have their businesses be in, right? This is my aim, right? And I think for many of my colleagues on the other side, the element of the family and what that stands for is frequently overlooked. And it's not necessarily I don't say defined. I think it's defined poorly in some of their legislation, but I don't really think they're honestly looking at the importance of it and how powerful that is in being able to keep people in New York. And when you look into the states where people are going to, even some of our neighbors in the Northeast, their policies are much different when it comes to that. They're not as polarizing. They're not attacking the family the way we are here in New York with some of the legislature. So I really am looking at ways to counter that and combat that through a variety of policies and proposed legislation. And we have tremendous leadership. We really do. Senator Helming has done an outstanding job, has been a legislator for a little bit longer than me. So, we look for direction in the leadership that we have within the state legislature and outside of it. We look to you for a lot of it, because there's a lot of things that get thrown at us, and I can tell you that it's sometimes comforting, it's sometimes alarming, but it's always good to hear what is actually happening, at different meetings, at different interactions people may have out in the community, and to get those firsthand accounts. It's so vital. So I'm grateful to be with you here today. I look forward to talking with you, and again, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Senator. And Senator Helming.
I'd like to be very brief and just say ditto what Jake said, but I do want to thank you, Jason, for the opportunity to be here this morning, and to thank everyone who is here. As Senator Ashby said, it's incredibly important that we hear from you, that we know what's on your minds, what's in your hearts, because what we hear from you, we bring back to Albany with us. It helps inform our votes, all of our decision-making, policies we may introduce, legislation, etc. But I have to say, maybe from a more selfish perspective, why it's so important to attend events like this and to hear from all of you, it fills me personally with hope. You know, when we're here at the Capitol every day and hearing some of this crazy stuff that's brought up, stripping away parental rights, I mean, you know the long list of things, not addressing affordability in our state, not addressing public safety, actually going the opposite way and giving criminals more rights, it gives us hope, fills me with hope to see a large group like this here in Albany, to speak your minds, to show that there is a counterbalance to what we typically see here on a normal day in Albany. I'm really looking forward to hearing what your priorities are. I have read the priority list. Jason does an amazing job. He's here all the time handing us white papers. Yeah. He really is. I mean, and when I say he's here all the time, I remember during one budget session, was it the ERA? I can't remember what came up, but it was literally 2 a.m. when we were getting out of our Republican minority conference heading into session, and Jason was there handing out informational, factual sheets that we could use then when we went to the floor to debate the bill. So it takes an entire team to get things done, and again, I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you. Hey, thank you. And speaking of the fact that it takes a team, on the end, you have another member of our team, Stephen Hayford. Stephen is our legislative director. He is an attorney. So again, it goes back to my trying to hire people smarter than I. It's really worked out well for me. But Stephen is also particularly gifted in writing. And so if you get emails or communications from us, Stephen does most of that writing. And he's just been wonderfully gifted in that area, and I so appreciate it. Most of the position papers have been drafted by Stephen. He really has just been a tremendous asset to me in that regard. In fact, lately you may have noticed a lot more of the emails are coming with his name on them. And I've gotten a couple of concerned emails, people asking, are you still there? I'm just getting emails from Stephen. I'm still there, I'm still at the helm. But it's just, we just really want to diversify the names of people that are out there and the work they're doing and see if they get credit as well. So would you show your appreciation for Stephen Hayford as well? So Stephen's probably going to chime in here because he's got some bills that we're looking at. And I will tell you, Senator, you touched on it. The issue that I think a lot of our people are concerned about right now is parental rights. And there are a number of pieces of legislation that have a direct impact on parental rights. So I guess the first question I want to ask is Senator Jake Ashby. Now that you have kids, all right, life is changing, and I forget how old they are now. Time kind of gets away. How old are they, My son will be 16 at the end of this month. And daughter will be 13 in April. That's not possible. Come on now, they were just in kindergarten, right? So it's amazing, isn't it? How has your view of parental rights impacted your role as a legislator? How is that guiding you? How is that impacting how you're looking at legislation now from that perspective?
Well, that's a great question. And it's a lens that I can't really divorce myself from, right? When I see legislation that comes across, right when I first got elected into the state assembly, there was a bill, and this was pre-COVID, that had to do with homeschoolers being able to play sports. And I thought to myself, this is a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't they be able to play sports? And I was new to Albany, obviously, at that time, and I had some conversations with some of my colleagues, and they said, well, there's some questions about their compliance with vaccines, and whether or not they're all be willing to take part in that. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? Do we have to do this for Little League? Do we have to this doesn't make any sense to me. And since then, obviously, with COVID and so many other issues that have gone on within the schools, it's only kind of grown and strengthened this reinforcement and this idea that I'm like, how do I feel like I'm ceding power when my kids are outside of the home? And it's a mystery to me how many of my colleagues don't feel the same way, or if they do, they're not addressing it here. And I don't know how you compromise on that. We made the decision more than a few years ago to begin sending our kids to a classical Christian school, and it's a little bit of a drive for us, but so worth it, and we feel good about it each and every day. But at the same time, many people don't have that option. There's not a huge population of those types of schools in this state, and we've seen homeschooling really expand. And I feel like, and we've actually seen on the other side of the aisle, we've seen a lot of people shift towards that way. So I feel like it's an opportunity, right? And so when you ask that question, how do I feel about it? Well, I'm recognizing this as an opportunity, and I think you can see a shift in that on both sides and in the middle. And I think it's one that we really have to take advantage of.
Yeah, parental rights seems to be an issue that it does cross the political lines. It's not just Republicans, but many Democrats as well, independents and others, that when it hits home, they tend to agree with me on the issue, right, on parental rights. There are some pieces, and I'm just going to call them kind of negative pieces of legislation, which I think will be pretty clear why New York Families Action is opposed to the bills. But Stephen, I think you've got a couple of them we could be talking about, some issues that are coming up as a parental rights perspective. And I want you to be aware of some of the issues that are happening out there.
Thank you, Jason. You know, in the political realm, it's a challenging time in our country. We're very polarized, and it seems like the people who make the most dramatic or over-the-top statements are the ones that get all the attention, and sometimes people can overstate things to get people revved up. I'm going to say something right now that may sound like it's over the top, but it's really not. Parental rights are under assault here in New York State. They're under assault from the majority in our state legislature. And if we're not going to do this, but we could spend the rest of the day going over all of the proposals and things that are out there and the things that have already been done that erode parental rights. One of them is, and some of you already have received some literature. We have some literature out in the outer room here on some of these bills. There is a bill that would give mature minors the ability to make their own medical decisions on almost any issue, so long as they can convince the medical provider that they are in fact mature enough to understand the consequences of the treatment or non-treatment, cut parents out completely. Part of the bill would even allow substance abuse treatment for a minor, even over the parent's express objection, if the medical practitioner thinks that it's necessary. So giving the professional the ability to override the parents in regard to a minor. There is the mandatory sex ed bill, which there again, the idea that we're going to have this type of education in schools, K through 12. What kind of sex education is appropriate for a kindergartner? None. Thank you. And yet this is what's out there. Of course, Planned Parenthood's input would be sought to create this curriculum and everything else that you could think of. And no opt-out. We have an opt-out in the law for HIV and AIDS education in schools, but this bill for sex education, no opt-out for the rest of it. So if you don't think your child is ready to hear whatever is being said, your ultimate opt-out is to take them out of the public school, but that's it. So no opt-out for you. And then there's the Equality Amendment, which has been passed by the legislature twice, very misleadingly named, and it's going to be on the ballot this fall, which would enshrine our very radical abortion and transgender-related laws and take them and put them in a constitution of the state of New York, making it much more difficult for a future and more right-thinking legislature to ever undo them. Information on all of those bills is available out here. And I want to say one more thing, because I want to give Senator Helming a chance to speak. She's got a committee meeting later this morning, and she can't be with us for too long. But I think that there's to answer a question Senator Ashby raised, why is it that other legislators don't see the problem? And I think my guess as an outsider is that there's two reasons. One is some of them are true believers, really believe that the government knows better than parents do and should be able to override the parents' authority. And another group is scared of the first group, and so they go along with it. That's my guess.
Senator Helming, you are in a little different season of life now, in that I am joining you in this. I am seeing.
I think he just said I was old in a nice way.
Nope, different season, ma'am. Just different season. I'm in the same season. My kids have grown. They've moved out. Right. We're heading to that age. They're right in that cusp of that. One of my daughters now moved to Nashville. I don't think she's coming back. She's getting an apartment down there now. I know, not a bad city to be in if you got to be, right? I know, but I don't see her coming back to New York. And I know. We recently had a video conference, and you were with your grandkids in another state. I am hearing from more and more parents that they are moving out of state because of some of these issues. And really that is, we talk about affordability, we talk about so many issues, but parental rights is one of those things for young families. They're saying, I no longer trust the ability of this state to leave me alone while I raise my kids. So I just want to give you a few minutes to talk about that, to understand that, to address that topic, and give us some encouragement as to where you and your colleagues in the Senate may be, at least and those you work with, on some of these parental rights issues.
I'll start with your last remark. Where are my colleagues and I on most of these issues? I would say, I can't speak for all of my colleagues, but the majority of us are no, no, and no. And we will stand up on the Senate floor and we will debate these issues hard. As you said, I'm in a different season of life. Right now, I'm struggling a little bit. My daughter, my son-in-law, my 3 grandkids live in North Carolina. They're in North Carolina because my son served in the Army and was stationed at Fort Bragg, which I can go down that rabbit hole too, is now the name has changed to Fort Liberty because we're stripping away all of our history, which I don't agree with. But anyway, they're moving back. They're moving back to New York. As a grandmother, I should be overjoyed. But all I keep saying to them, are you sure? Have you looked at what's happening in New York State? Whether it's your Second Amendment rights, whether it's education issues, whether it's the taxes that you're gonna have to pay, everything is a struggle here in New York State. But again, I want my grandkids to be close by. And I think you want to be close to your families. You want them to stay here. New York State is a beautiful state. I think we're very blessed to live here. And the policies, what can we do to change the policies? Like what can every one of you in your seat do to help us make changes here in Albany? Well, we already talked about it's important that you convey your thoughts, your feelings on these bills, these policies, et cetera. But it's also important that you help us recruit people who aren't voters. Get them to go out and to vote. Educate them on the issues however you can, whether that's through social media, writing a letter to your local newspaper, which good luck with that. I do it all the time. For some reason, they don't always show up in the papers, but do whatever you can to inform and engage people. You know, a lot of times we talk about the 2 political parties, but there's a whole middle group there that are undecided. We need to let them know what's going on, and that's a challenge because people are so busy in their daily lives. But that is, I think, the best thing we can all do. We used to point to all the bad things that happen in the state, blame it on New York City legislators, and a lot of the blame still does belong with them. But if you look at the makeup, look at upstate New York, we have bad votes coming from majority members who live and represent upstate New York. We have to let people know that. I just want to say something else. Policy is key. The laws that get passed are key. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, too, that I feel like I could do to help educate people and to make a change. Little things. Like every year, the New York State Senate sponsors the Youth Leadership Program, which I've always participated in. It's an opportunity to recognize outstanding students in the community. And I always open mine up to homeschool students, students who attend religious schools, to everyone. And last year, I started getting calls from nominators of these students saying, hey, we never heard back from you. Well, the Senate manages everything, and after doing some digging deep, we found out that the Senate, the majority, was screening out who I was going to recognize. So chalk one up for them. This year, we did my own Pam Helming Youth Leadership. We just had it a couple of days ago, and we welcome nominations again from the public schools, from the private schools, religious schools, from homeschool, and it was wonderful, wonderful to acknowledge all those students and all their great accomplishments. And again, to educate some of the people in the room about the benefits of homeschooling, or that you can be successful as a homeschool student or as a student attending a religious school. So it's little things like that. I participate in our local homeschool, their annual graduation ceremony. It's doing everything that we can outside of these walls to just, again, educate and inform people and try to get them to, take the next step, become a voter if they're not, to talk to their friends and relatives about the importance of voting.
Excellent. Let me also say that one of the things I appreciate from each of these senators is they will call, they will text with questions about legislation, things they're working on, maybe trying to find a solution to a problem. I know there was one in particular the senator and I were working on. Senator Helming has to run to a committee meeting, so we appreciate Senator Helming, and we knew that ahead of time. And we're going to let Senator Jake Ashby out of here in just a minute because he also has to go to a committee meeting here shortly. But I just want to say I really appreciate their communication. They will text, they will make calls, they will ask questions to know where you and where our organization is on key issues, or how we can find solutions, or maybe where there's an impasse so we can try to work through some of this. That's good too. But you also have that ability. And so I want to encourage you to set up a relationship with your state senator, your member of assembly, regardless of party. Start having the conversation with them so they know where you are on the issues. Take them out to breakfast, take them out to coffee, have them in your church some Sunday, so that you can get to know them, build that relationship so you can interact with them on those important issues. There's a lot to deal with this topic and these things, but your being here is important for these senators to realize that there are people that care about these issues, that they are not alone. It can be a discouraging place to be and to work in and try to fight in. And I'm talking to a guy here who's got military experience. I'm telling you, it's a tough fight, right? But it's a slog here. And so I appreciate their effort to stand up and do the right thing in so many issues. So, Senator, any closing remarks?
No, Jason, excuse me. I just want to again thank all of you for what you're doing. I know so many people in my life who are leaving, and I can't blame them. I really can't when I look at what's going on in New York State. But you all are still here, and I believe in this state, and I believe in the people that are here. And I know that we can turn it around. Everybody in this room has seen someone in their life, and I'm sure right now, someone who's struggling desperately. And they find inspiration, and they've been able to overcome it. That can be done at a larger scale. That can be done at the state level. And I'm committed to that. We moved away for a period of time. I lived out in Montana for a couple years, almost 20 years ago, and family brought me back here. And I know for many people, family is what keeps them here. And it's that belief, is what I was alluding to earlier, the family and its power, right? And what we can derive from that and make our state a better place because of it. That's what we're all going to seek to do. And I really appreciate you giving me the time and the platform to talk with you all today. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Senator Jake Ashby, thank you.